Good morning, counsel.
Morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Loya.
Morning, Your Honor.
I see new faces out there on the camera, folk. Has everyone out there read Rule 919, no, it's 119, excuse me, of the Supreme Judicial Court's rules?
Yes.
Terrific. Absolute, the rule says no frontal or close photography of jurors. My rule is different. Absolutely no photography of jurors at any angle, at any distance, none. And now, let me see counsel at sidebar on that juror issue.
Exhibit number 45. You indicated that when you were in the bedroom in 11, that there was a body in the room with you, right?
Yes.
Did you have a chance to make observations of that body?
Yes.
Did you observe what is on exhibit 45C, that item?
May I approach?
Yes, please.
Yes.
In what significance does that have to you?
That is a spent bullet.
Were you able to tell the caliber?
Yes.
What was it?
It was 9mm caliber.
And did you have occasion to test or observe any items from the Office of Chief Medical Examiner in Sandwich?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
After the autopsy, the medical examiner recovers ballistics evidence, projectiles, bullets, and they are then either picked up by someone from ballistics or they are transferred to ballistics and then taken to our lab and returned up.
It's 82, 83, 84, 82 through 87, and 89 and 90.
Can I say 82 through 87 and 89 and 90? I don't know if they'll be over here or if they're over there.
Mr. Clerk, counsel needs exhibits.
82 through 87 and then 89 through 90. They should be little envelopes. Here. Yep.
They're all together.
Yep. Your Honor, I would ask the witness to look at exhibits 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 89, and 90, and tell me if he recognizes those.
May I go back to the stand?
Absolutely. Do you recognize those?
Yes.
Tell us about those, please.
These are the projectiles that were submitted by the medical examiner's office to my lab.
And what opinions or conclusions did you draw when you looked at those, examining them?
My opinions were that these items right here, they all share discernible class characteristics as the questioned weapon from the scene, but
Well, which question?
from the 9mm Walther semi-automatic pistol. However, due to the damage and the lack of microscopic marks, I was unable to determine conclusively that they were fired from that 9mm.
But could you draw an opinion to the caliber?
I'd have to do that individually. So there was fragments and whatnot. So Exhibit 85, it is a 38 caliber class, that's the term we use, 38 caliber class is a category of ammunition of which 9mm is a part of. So yes, it is consistent with having been fired from that 9mm. Exhibit 86, also the same thing, consistent with having been fired from that 9mm. Exhibit 82, same thing, .38 caliber class, consistent with having been fired from that 9mm. Exhibit 84, same thing, .38 caliber class, consistent with having been fired from that 9mm. Exhibit 87 is a portion of lead, which I could not determine whether or not it was fired from that 9mm. 8-9 is a jacket fragment. Remember, it's that copper part that surrounds the lead. I could not determine whether that was fired from the 9mm. Exhibit 83 is a jacket fragment, and it actually has two parts, A and B. Both A and B are jacket fragments. However, B is more significant. It is .38 caliber class, so the second half of this exhibit, Exhibit 83, is consistent with having been fired from that 9mm. And Exhibit 90, I could not determine if it was fired from the 9mm.
Thank you. Would you be kind enough to look at this item?
Okay.
And tell me if you recognize what that is.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is, please?
That is a spent projectile, and it's .38 caliber class, 9mm in diameter.
Do you know what that was recovered from?
Yes,
Where?
it was recovered from the person's inner thigh.
Put up for that, Your
No objection.
Next number exhibit, please.
And was that consistent with being fired from the Walther?
I beg your pardon?
Is that consistent with being fired from the Walther?
Yes, from the Walther, yes.
Now, one,
Death certificate.
if you be kind enough to look at this and tell me if you recognize what that is. You can take it out and go through the pages.
Yes.
Could you tell us what that is, please?
This is the report I generated regarding this particular incident.
And does that certificate indicate the results of the test fire and your opinion regarding the ammunition?
Yes.
Your Honor, office?
Of the firearms, right? Saying they're rifles or shotguns. And it's just its ammunition. It's nothing else.
No objection.
Can I see it, please? Thank you. No objection, Mr. Segadelli?
No objection.
Run a staple through it. Next number exhibit.
Refer to exhibit number 95. Could you, your observations of this item 95?
Yeah.
Yes. And did you form an opinion as to what type of weapon that was?
Yes.
And could you tell us about that opinion, please?
This is a rifle
And why is it a rifle?
because the barrel length is greater than 16 inches. In this case, it's 18 and 5/8 inches.
Thank you. With respect to item 49A, did you have an opportunity to examine that as well?
Yes?
And did you form an opinion as to what type of firearm that was?
Yes.
And what was that opinion?
It's a rifle.
And why is it a rifle?
It's a rifle because the barrel length is 17 and 3/4 inches, longer than 16 inches.
In exhibit number 40, did you form an opinion as to what type of weapon that is?
Yes,
What type of weapon is that?
this is a shotgun
And why is that?
because it has has the general appearance of a shotgun. It has a smooth bore and it has a barrel length of 21 inches.
Thank you. Just 1 second. And would you state that was pretty much the extent of your part in this investigation?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I have now.
Cross-examination if you wish.
Briefly, Your Honor. Sir, with respect to those spent projectiles that we just discussed,
From the ME's office?
yes.
Yes.
Those were consistent. They had the class and characteristics of having been shot by a 9mm Walther, correct?
Correct.
But you didn't go further into the tool mark identification, identifying it or connecting it to that 9mm. That's fair, right?
I attempted to, but I did not identify it to that.
Again, consistent with,
Correct.
but not identified.
Correct.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step aside.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Jerry.
Trooper Bangston, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear testimony you give to the court and the jury and the issues now pending between the Commonwealth defendant and the bar, you the truth, the whole truth, so help you God.
I do.
Sir, in a nice loud voice, could you state your name and could you spell your last name?
Yes. My name's Peter Bankson. Last name's Bengtson.
And how are you employed, please?
I'm employed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of State Police.
And in what capacity?
I'm a trooper.
And are you assigned to any specific unit?
Yes, I'm assigned to the Crime Scene Services section.
And drawing your attention to February 5th of 2015, in the early morning hours, say 3:45 or so, where were you?
I was at my home at that time.
And did something take place?
Yes.
For what you're here today?
I was contacted by the Middleborough Barracks, or the headquarters for the southeast area, and requested to respond to Roundhouse Road in Bourne.
And did you do that?
I did.
And how did you get there?
I used my cruiser.
And when you say cruiser, what type of cruiser was it?
It's a Ford Escape that holds the various items that I would use to process.
Marked or unmarked?
It's an unmarked car.
And how were you dressed?
I was dressed in my BDU pants, boots. I don't wear a typical field uniform that you'd see a trooper in.
And did you go to 11 Roundhouse Road?
I did go to that complex, yes.
And what happened when you arrived there?
Upon arrival, I met with the various investigative agencies, including the state police, the Bourne Police, some EMS members from each unit, including the bomb squad, and debriefed on what was known at that time.
Okay. And again, about what time was this when you arrived at location?
I arrived at 4:25 in the morning.
Okay. Was their car still there?
Yes, it was.
Describe what you saw with respect to the car.
The single entrance to Roundhouse Road, there was a car parked perpendicularly across the roadway. It was completely burned out and still smoking at the time, even little flames of fire coming from the car.
Exhibit number 30. Did you see that from where you're,
Yes, I can.
and do you recognize what that depicts?
This is the vehicle that I described, which I saw upon my arrival.
And does photograph A depict the way in which it was parked?
Yes,
And you indicated that you made some observations of this automobile. When you did, was there still, well, when you saw it, did it look like this, a little bit of the fire still going in it?
yes.
After making that observation, what, if anything, did you do?
I met with Sergeant Qualls of the bomb squad unit. Sergeant Qualls was in the process of rendering devices safe. I attended those devices with him, photographed those devices in place.
And what devices are you talking about?
These are various devices, including a large stereo that looked like an impoverished device. There was another device next to the fire hydrant just adjacent to the vehicle. Various noisemakers and lights that were placed throughout the complex.
Okay, and you made observations of those and you took pictures of those, is that fair to say?
Yes, I did.
What's the next thing that happened?
We continued the investigation and began placarding items of interest that were scattered throughout the entire complex.
And could you describe what that involves, what you mean by that?
It's a collaboration mostly of the Crime Scene Services section, myself, Sergeant Kevin Halley, my supervisor from Crime Scene, with the assistance of officers that had been in the scene and described places of interest to us, items that were obvious to the investigation, such as firearms, GoPro video, footwear impressions, things of that nature.
But what do you mean by placarding? What does that mean?
Placarding. Placarding is a method that we use, that we provide numbers to those items of evidence that are interest to us. They're little yellow numbers. It allows us to begin tracking those items within the place of the crime scene and assist us as we collect those items and begin processing those items regarding the various disciplines that might take them, whether it's firearms or crime scene for fingerprints and things like that.
And so would there be a group that might be using a set of numbers outside and a group that might be using them someplace else? And so you could actually have a number one in two different places?
That's correct.
And Amy Joy, do you know who Amy Joy is?
I do.
And who is she?
Amy Joy is a forensic scientist assigned to the chemist section.
And would she be under the auspices of the Crime Scene Services that night?
Not under the lab protocol itself. She's not under our direct supervision or anything like that, but we do work hand in hand.
Do you know where she went to that night?
I think mostly her responsibilities were within 11 Roundhouse Road.
And did she have a set of placards with her as well?
She would use numbers. We used our own placard numbers within the residence as well as outside.
And so let me just, so you indicated that you had gone and you had seen items in different spots. Give me 1 second. This is exhibit number 107 here. In exhibit number 107, you recognize what's depicted in G and H, and you can come down to...
You can step down if you'd like to.
Take the pointer with you, don't mind the
Up against the corner there, thank you.
So that when you show, you can see the sign not blocking the jurors' view.
Items in G and H, this would be the newbie GoPro that was located in a snowbank. It's the close-up of it. And this is a pour-over altar for the newbie GoPro. This is outside number 71 Roundhouse Road.
And do you know, is there a light pole or anything near that location?
There is this black pole here in the newbies, this little black documents.
Do you know if that was in any way identifiable, that light pole?
I can't recall if there was a number on the light pole itself, however, it was just outside of that 7 complex.
And that was recovered, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Exhibit number 15. Do you recognize what's depicted in exhibit number 50?
Yes, I do.
And could you tell us what that is, please?
I recognize a rifle that was located on the rear deck of, I believe it was number 77 Roundhouse Road, as well as a duty belt that would hold a firearms, ammunitions, and things like that.
And did you make an observation of those items?
I did.
With respect to E and F, is that how that looked at the time?
Yes.
And could you tell us, if you want to go down with the pointer, what it is you observed on that belt?
This is the safe that the belt was lying on number 77, the rear deck. Within that belt, it held a firearm or a handgun. These were 2 magazines that were on that belt. Just below it, you see a hard set of headphones. Below the belt, there was a pouch as well as a knife on that belt.
And what about in F?
In F, this is a close-up of the handgun on that belt.
And if you kind of look at exhibit 98. Do you recognize what this is?
Yes.
And what is this?
This is the duty belt that I've pointed out here and described with the various container folding items.
And obviously, some of those items are not gone.
Yes, sir.
And what was in this part here that I'm pointing to?
That was the handgun.
And what about this part here?
That contained, I'm not sure exactly what that contained there.
And what about the next item here?
The next item contained is a pouch that contained duct tape.
And what about these items there?
Those are what we call magazine holders, where we can slide a magazine full of ammunition, those holders.
And you indicated that it had been a knife as well?
Yes, sir.
So I'm asking if you kind of look what's inside this box and if you recognize what that is.
This is the knife that was contained within that belt in the front knife process.
Sure.
No objection.
Next number exhibit.
117.
And you can retake the stand, please. And after the observations you made at that location, what else did you do, if anything?
Again, we placarded those items, began documenting them with photographs, video, taking notes on them. Continued throughout the complex as items of evidence were within that circle of Roundhouse Road, where we placarded those items, photographed and collected before entering the residence at 11 Roundhouse.
And just, are you trained in fingerprinting and fingerprint interpretation?
I am.
Now, with respect to the blue box, I'll just show you.
Might suggest also that every one of our jurors was wide awake last week. If you say boombox, I'll bet they know what you're talking about.
Okay. Happen to find it, so was the last one. Exhibit number 33, if you recognize what's depicted in A, B, C, D,
Yes, I do.
is that the blue box that you're talking about?
Yes.
And did you do any fingerprinting that came back positive for anybody?
Yes, I collected that item, brought it to the Bourne lab where I processed it for friction-ridge impressions.
And just tell us what was the result of that.
I found several fingerprints on those items, including the cell phone that was attached to the front of the music box. Those fingerprints were identified to Mr. Loya.
Okay. Now, you mentioned on the belt there was some duct tape found.
Yes, sir.
Did you do anything with respect to fingerprinting on that?
Yes, I processed that, located one fingerprint on that.
And who did that come back to, if anyone?
That also came back to Mr. Loya.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Yes, sir, you may step aside.
Your Honor.
Thank you.
I could have just one second.
Please.
Eli Morgan, please.
Do we have a video of him? Yeah. No audio.
Sir, raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you give to the court and the jury and the issues now pending between the Commonwealth defendant and the truth, but nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So in a nice loud voice, could you state your name
Eli Horrigan,
and spell your last name?
Horrigan.
And how are you employed, sir?
I work for the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office. I'm a correctional officer.
And what does that entail for your duties?
On a day-to-day basis, I maintain the order inside of the facility, the jail. On the given date, I was assigned to an eyeball watch.
Okay, hold on the date. 1 second. On February 9th of 2015, were you working that day?
Yes, sir.
And what were you assigned to?
I was assigned to an eyeball watch, watching Mr. Loya.
Okay, what does an eyeball watch mean?
Any inmate that comes into the facility is placed on eyeball watch due to suicidal tendencies or behaviors put on either by correctional officers or psych services.
And did something take place with respect to Mr. Loya that day?
Yeah, he spoke with me in great length that day about the details of his crime.
Now, did you say anything to him before he started to speak with you?
I let him know that anything he said to me, I could have to put into a report and I could have to testify against him.
And what did he reply to that, if anything?
He said he didn't care, that he told the detectives and the police everything, and that he did it.
Where did this take place, this conversation?
This is on the eyeball watch, HL 134, inside the facility.
Okay, what does HR 134 mean?
HL 134 is a room, he's behind a door, he sits on a mattress, and he's in a suicide prevention gown, which prevents him from hurting himself any further.
And is there anybody else in that area?
No, just me and him, sir.
And is that recorded in any fashion?
There is a camera inside of the cell.
All right. And do you know if that tape's just audio or audio and video or just video?
It's just video, sir.
So there's no audio, correct?
No, sir.
All right. So what did he tell you?
He told me that while stationed in Kodiak, Alaska, he had befriended Lisa and Anna. He stated that while Lisa's car was broken down, he had given her rides to and from work. He then stated one night, Anna went to work, that Lisa had directed him towards the bedroom, and he claimed had assaulted him, and he made it known that it was a mental assault, not a physical assault, that she came on to him, and that made him feel very uncomfortable.
And what else did he say, if anything?
He stated that after that, he began to have panic attacks regularly. He thought she might make false allegations against him, that she would tell superiors and that he would get in trouble. She might say he even tried to rape her. He stated to me
He said what?
that she might state that he assaulted her.
Okay. Go on, what else did he say, if anything?
He stated that he confronted Lisa, and that she did in fact end up going to supervisors. It hurt his career in the military, he couldn't advance, and that at that point they were separated. He was told he'd be going to Virginia, and he wasn't told they were going to Cape Cod, but they were stationed on Cape Cod. At that time, he drove to Texas to go to his father's house. He stopped somewhere in Utah or Colorado. He didn't specify to me which. He just said he didn't know. He ordered a prostitute to see if he could still sexually perform, to which he said he could. He then went to Texas.
Well, did he say anything about sex and his feelings towards sex?
Yes, he told me that he never particularly cared for sex. He said that he enjoyed the beginning and the end, but he did not care for any of the middle portion because he said he never really had any personal relationships with anyone.
And you'd say he then said something about going to his father's?
He went to his father's house, and when he got to his father's house, he found his dog to be in poor health conditions. He said this made him hate Lisa. He told me he was consumed with hating her. He ended up having to put the dog down. After that, he went to Virginia, and while in Virginia, he saw the Coast Guard database to get Lisa and Anna's address because he, as I said, he was consumed with hating her.
And was he able to get that address, did he say?
Yes, he did. He said from the Coast Guard database, he said you can find the names and addresses of every member in the Coast Guard.
And did he say anything about some of the things he used to enjoy?
He used to enjoy, he said, playing video games prior to that. He said, but he had lost all interest in even that. He stated he would sometimes purchase prostitutes and have them rub his back while he would try to play video games, but he said he would just become frustrated and not be able to play.
Did he say what he would become while he was playing the games?
He said he hated Lisa.
Now, did he say he did something with respect to Lisa in terms of a plan?
Yeah, he said he had planned to kill her.
Did he indicate that he had written something?
He wrote a 200-page memoir, he told me. He said he planned to kill her for about a year and a half. He uploaded that as well, or had it on his hard drive at home.
Did he say that he did something with respect to a camera?
Yes, sir. He told me that while in Virginia, he purchased a hunting camera. What he did is, after he purchased it, he drove from Virginia to Cape Cod. He placed it outside of her door in the woods to make sure it was in fact her door. He told me he did this because too many times police officers get bad intel and they'll raid the wrong home and kick in the wrong door. After he placed the hunting camera, he said he drove back to Virginia. About a week later, he said he retrieved the camera to make sure it was their house, and it was in fact their house.
Did he indicate that he later did something with respect to his plans?
He said he drove up on Sunday, February 1st. He said he drove up because he knew everyone would be watching the game, referring to Super Bowl Sunday, sir.
Go ahead.
He checked into the Quality Inn, he said, and then on the night that he executed his plan, he said he left about 2 a.m. He went to the home. He said his plan was to set his car on fire to cause a scene to get police officers there. He would then blow in the front door with a shotgun. He would find them in the bedroom. He would tell them to lay down on their faces, put their hands behind their back, and spread their feet. He said due to Coast Guard protocol, they would be told, they would do everything that they were told in a given situation. He would then put a bag and earmuffs in Anna's ears and a bag over her head so she couldn't see what would happen because he didn't want to hurt her. He said he would then reveal himself to Lisa, confront her for what she had done to him, and then he would slit her throat.
Then what did he say he would do?
Then he said he would leave, go outside with his weapon in hand to pose a threat to police so they would kill him. He said he wanted to be shot and kill her on the same day he was born so it would come full circle.
Did he say that something happened with respect to the actual execution of that plan?
Yes, he said the plan was not executed properly. He did set fire to his car. When he went into the bedroom, and gave the commands. He said one of the women said his name. He didn't specify who. After that, he took his mask off, and he said Lisa then began to apologize to him for what she had done, but he didn't believe her. He said that she would say anything in that situation to preserve her life. He said Anna was surprisingly calm, but that Lisa was shouting orders to her to tell her to try to escape or get down. At that time, he started firing. He didn't tell me how many times he shot his weapon or who he shot first.
Did he say what type of weapon he used?
He did not, sir.
Did he say that he had something in his hand already?
He said he had, he said he blew the front door in with a shotgun. I believe he had a pistol, is the gun he had in hand.
After he indicated that he did the shooting, what did he say he did next?
He said he left the house and went outside, but there was no police officers. He told me that he believed his mind was blank because he was not supposed to make it. So he moved to a different location to try to collect himself. Again, found himself without a thought. He moved to a second location. Again, found himself without a thought. Moved to a third location, and that's where he saw a police officer. And he said he aimed at the officer and he shot him, then put his hand down and put his hands up. He also told me he wore a GoPro for the entire event.
Okay. Did he say anything about Anna?
He said he never wanted to hurt Anna, that it wasn't her problem. He did feel bad about shooting her, but that the plan unraveled.
Did he say anything about the police officer?
He said he didn't feel bad about shooting the police officer because of the threat that the police officer posed to him.
And what did he say after that, if anything?
He stated to me that he wrote a 200-page memoir, that he uploaded to the internet, and that it was also on his hard drive at home. He did state that he wore a GoPro, and that was kind of the end of our conversation.
Did he say anything about what he thought Lisa had done with everybody else?
That what was the question?
Did he say anything about Lisa having done something with everybody else?
I'm not sure I understand the question, sir.
Is your memory exhausted, sir?
Yes, sir.
Come on, man. Just read this to yourself and let me know when you're done, okay?
Yes, sir.
Just start with the he and the feel.
Oh, yes, sir.
What did he say? Thank you.
He did tell me that he believed that Lisa had brainwashed everyone to believe that he was a bad person, that he needed to show everybody that she was the bad person and not him. He did state that she needed to die.
Can we just approach for 1 second?
Sure, come on over.
And now you had indicated that this was videotaped, recorded, not audio though, is that fair to say?
Yes,
Just
sir.
visual.
Yes, sir.
And have you been able to look at the video of your interaction with Mr. Loya?
No, sir.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how that looked on the day you were there?
Yes, sir.
And he begins talking to you, is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And you just listen, right?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you told him, though, that anything he told you, you'd have to report it, right?
Yes, sir.
And this goes on for the extent of the time that you spoke with him, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I'd offer that as an exhibit. We can stop that and just...
Okay.
Next number exhibit.
Now, during that period of time... Well, wait till it's on.
Oh, it's gonna take a while.
Okay, well, during that period of time, how close would you say that you were able to get to Mr. Loya? How far away from him?
I would say I was about 4 feet, but there's a door in between us.
Disc of the interview. Next number. 118, thank you.
When he spoke, did he speak in a logical sequence? In other words, did it flow in a normal way?
Yes, sir.
Sustained. That's an opinion. Next question.
Okay, what did you observe about his speech, if anything?
He seemed coherent to me. He appeared to know what he was talking
I
about.
object.
Sustained. Stricken.
Did you notice anything out of the ordinary when he spoke?
No, sir.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. This particular day, sir, what time did your shift start?
7:30 a.m., sir.
And was Mr. Loya at that time in that cell we just saw on the television screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, who did you relieve?
I don't recall, sir.
How long had he been, if you know, in that cell?
I don't recall, sir. I don't know.
Do you know if he was speaking to the fellow who was monitoring him prior to you?
No, sir.
What were your first words to him?
I asked him how he was, sir.
Okay, again, we have the door between us, and that's a window, correct?
Yes, sir. There's a window and a door, sir.
Is there some type of microphone or other type of system to hear one another?
No, sir.
But there's no difficulty in hearing one another?
No, sir.
You know, he only had that, what one would call a Johnny on his body?
Yes, sir.
Now, you start work at 7:30, or you start your eyeballing him
Yes, sir.
sometime around 7:30, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, after you say, "How are you doing?" he begins to talk to you about the events.
No, sir.
Okay, did you start making inquiry of him?
No, sir.
Who started the conversation?
I asked him how he was doing, sir. I said,
Okay, where'd we go from there?
he told me he was doing good, sir.
Okay, and then we started talking about the events that brought him there, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Was that time, sir, you said, "Hey, you know, I might have to repeat this if you keep talking"?
Yes, sir.
And are you, as he's talking, sir, writing notes down?
No, sir. I'm
So-
making log entries.
I'm sorry?
Just making log entries.
Okay, well, you're hearing particular things of interest from this fellow, right?
Yes, sir.
Are you writing those down?
No, sir.
Okay. How long did this interview, whatever you want to call it, last?
I would say roughly 4, 5 hours, maybe.
Okay, were you, in that period of time, relieved at any point?
Yes, sir.
Right, how long were you, no, you were relieved at the end of it, right?
No, sir. I was relieved from my chow break. Chow break, 30 minutes, sir.
Okay. And that was within that 4-hour span.
Yes, sir.
Where had he stopped this narrative that you gave us today when you said, "Hold up, I gotta get something to eat"? Do you recall?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay. Well, you gave us a pretty good narrative. In fact, you prepared a report
Yes.
of this interview, right? This
Yeah.
4-hour interview. And you gave us all bits and pieces of what he told you without any prompting from you, right?
Yes, sir.
At some point in time, sir, you said, or it was stopped because you went to get something to eat.
Yes, sir. Well, he broke to eat as well, sir.
Okay. What time do you go to eat if your shift started at 7:30?
On that particular day, I don't know, somewhere at 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Okay. And then you come back and he starts up again?
He picked up right where I left off,
Is there
sir.
another hour left or 2 hours of this 4-hour interview?
I would say roughly 2 hours, sir.
Well, okay, so halfway through, you
Yes, sir.
took a lunch break. Was it during that lunch break that you went to your superior and said, "Hey, this fellow I'm watching is telling me a story"?
I told my captain, yes.
During your lunch break?
No, it wasn't during my lunch break. I think at the end of my shift.
When did your shift end?
3:30, sir.
Okay. Well, this 4 hours with my client would have ended a little afternoon time, right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't tell your superior till the very end of the day?
That was the next time I saw her, yes.
Okay, and did he tell you to record?
She did, yes, sir.
From your memory, what he told you?
Yes,
Now, in this 4 hours, we saw him when he was laying down, right?
yes, sir.
When he's speaking to you, is he sitting up?
He went from laying down to sitting up. I mean, pretty regularly, however he felt comfortable.
Okay. And never raised his voice, did he?
No, sir.
And he was always calm,
Yes, sir.
expressionless.
Yes, sir.
In fact, you noted that, at least in your mind's eye, but this guy just has no effect. He's just flat, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you put that in your report?
I don't recall, sir.
And he told you about having been victimized by a gal named Lisa, who you didn't know, right?
Yes, sir.
And how did he say he was victimized, sir?
He said he was assaulted and he pointed to his head.
And he said, she assaulted me, right?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you recall that he said it was mentally, and he even gestured. Can you show us how he gestured to his
He
head?
pointed to his head, sir.
Okay. And it was his word, something in him snapped, right?
Yes, sir.
And you recall him telling you he was angry and upset because people just wouldn't understand him or believe him?
Yes, sir.
Those
That's what
were
he
his
said.
words, right?
Yes, sir.
Again, now, once you're into this interview or conversation with him, were you prompting him? In other words, were you asking some questions?
No, sir.
So other than your words, sir, how are you doing? You didn't say anything else?
No, I asked him how he was doing. He said, good. I said, if you're doing good, why are you here? He said, you know why I'm here. I said, I know why you're in jail. I meant, why are you on an eyeball watch if you're doing good? And he stated to me, I don't know. I could have killed myself if I wanted to. I said, oh, and then he asked me if I wanted to know what happened.
Okay, that took us a minute or two, sir. In the next 4 hours, it was all him.
Yes, sir. I listened.
Did any other COs, corrections officers, in and around that space at that time?
For the most part, it was just him and I, sir.
Okay, did you ever summon somebody else and say, this might be interesting?
No, sir.
Okay? And those were your only words in that 4 hours, those few sentences you just gave us?
Yes, sir. From my memory, yes.
Say that again? On
My
your
memory, yes.
Your memory seems remarkable, sir. Right? It was some 30 months ago.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in fact, besides a trip to, he told you about a cross-country trip where he came from Alaska and he stopped to see his dad, right?
Yes, sir.
And something happened with his beloved dog, right?
Yes, sir.
That is, he had to put his dog down, right?
Yes, he said the dog was in poor health conditions.
And he hated his father for it, right?
Yes, sir.
In fact, it brought up a hatred not only for Dad, but for Lisa, right?
Yes, sir.
And you remember the words, sir, he was convinced that she brainwashed everybody.
Yes, sir.
And it was he and he alone who then brought up sex and how he has sex with her.
Yes, sir. He told me he stopped in either Colorado or Utah.
Well, other than him stopping, sir, he also told you that he didn't particularly like it because it was too much work, right?
Yes, sir.
Like the beginning and the end. And that was that, right?
Yes, sir.
He also told you in this part of the interview, sir, that he didn't really enjoy being that social with anyone, right?
Yes, sir.
And he, again, these few hours into it, kept that emotionless, flat, quiet guy, right?
Yes, sir.
And after the talking about Dad, he told you about Mom and how she left him, right?
Yes, sir.
And he failed to keep in contact with her. And he said, quote, and I think you quoted, "What's the point?"
Yes, sir.
And again, now going to another topic, other than the sex, he talked to you about his, at least at one point in his life, enjoyed video games.
Yes, sir.
And what did he say about video games?
That he, prior to this event, that he enjoyed them.
Okay, well, again, let's be clear. Not this event that brought him to be in your custody, sir. It was the assault back in Kodiak, right?
Yes, sir.
So when you say that he enjoyed these video games prior to the incident, but since she had assaulted him, he didn't really even find joy in that anymore.
No, sir, that's what he told me.
Yeah, and you went on about, again, in that, talking about video games, he indicated he would call up women online, but not for sexual favors, right?
Correct.
Now, sir, he talked about leaving the apartment that evening, and when he went outside and he encountered police. Do you remember that part of the interview?
When he finally encountered them?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And you remember him saying, sir, his mind was blank,
Yes, sir.
that he believed it was shut off and he wasn't even capable of thinking.
Yes, sir.
He went to a location to try to think of something to do, but again, found himself without a thought. Again, so that wasn't in quotes, but those were his words?
Yes, sir.
Towards the end, sir, if you recall, and again, this wasn't prompted by any words from you other than the 3 or 4 sentences you told us some 3 hours before or 4 hours now towards the end of the conversation, right? You haven't said a thing.
No, sir.
He again reiterated, sir, to you, he did not feel anything anymore. He wasn't happy or sad or anything.
Yes,
Those
sir.
are Mr. Loya's words. That he had no feelings on the matter at all. Again, a quote from him.
Yes, sir.
And again, and I've asked you several times, but that his demeanor, sir, never changed, correct?
No, sir. It never changed.
And after telling you of the events, in fact, using that firearm that night and not having any true feelings, sir, he just ended this 4-hour interlude with you to say, I'm gonna go to sleep now.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
Anything further? Mr.
Yes, just briefly. Sir, what did he tell you about when he went to Colorado and hired somebody?
Yeah, he hired an escort, sir, a prostitute,
For what reason?
to see if he could still perform sexually.
Okay. And the demeanor remained the same throughout the entire interview, correct?
Yes, sir.
Even when he talked about his dog, right?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Nothing.
Thank you, sir. You may step aside. Thank you.
EMT Kozlowski, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear testimony you give to the court, the jury, and the issues now pending between the Commonwealth defendant and the bar shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Sir, in a nice loud voice, could you state your name and could you spell your last name?
Randy Kozlowski, K-O-S-L-O-W-S-K-Y.
And how are you employed, sir?
I'm a firefighter paramedic with the town of Falmouth
And how long have you served with the town of Falmouth in that capacity?
for 12 years.
So drawing your attention, sir, to the date of February 5th of 2015, you were so employed at that time, correct?
I was.
And could you tell us, what is a paramedic?
We provide first aid, basic first aid, as well as advanced life support, which would be CPR, bandaging wounds, taking people to the hospital.
So if there is, what's the difference between an EMT and a paramedic?
EMT is basic life support, which is vital signs, initial assessments, taking people to the hospital, whereas paramedics can do establish IVs, cardiac monitoring, as well as giving medications.
So it would be a step above an EMT, a paramedic, correct?
Correct.
Now, drawing your attention to the date of February 5th of 2015, at around 3 in the morning, do you recall where you were?
At 3 in the morning?
Around 3 o'clock, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay, did you have occasion to be in Bourne at some point?
I was, yes.
Okay, how did you get to Bourne if you're with the Falmouth Police, Fire Department?
We were called mutual aid. We were dispatched through our dispatch center. They told us to respond mutual aid to assist the police.
Okay, what does mutual aid mean?
It's when a town is overrun with calls, we provide assistance to other towns. So they, at that point, had no additional ambulances to send or available, so that they'll call us and we'll supplement them.
And did you, in fact, go to someplace in Bourne?
We did.
Where?
We met up at the Grand Union on Clay Pond Road to stage.
And who is we?
Myself and firefighter Russ Ferreira.
Okay. And is he also with the Falmouth Fire Department?
He is.
Is he an EMT or a paramedic as well?
He is an EMT.
Okay.
And he's currently retired.
Okay. And at some point, did you do something with respect to this case?
We did.
Tell us that.
We're approached by the Bourne deputy fire chief, who told us that we had to respond. There was a police officer who had been shot, and we had to, there was also a woman who was deceased, and they told us that we had to go in and retrieve a person who had been shot in the chest.
Did you think that was this woman who was deceased, or that was another woman?
They made it clear it was
Sorry?
I object.
Yeah, as to what he thought, sustained.
So when you got into the room, what were you prepared to do?
we were told to,
I object.
Yeah, not what you were told. What did you do? What did you do when you got there?
okay, sorry. We went to extricate the patient from the house.
Okay. Which patient?
That would be Anna.
Okay. What was your understanding of how many people were wounded in the room?
I only saw one.
Okay. And tell us how you got to 11.
I'm sorry.
Did you go into 11 Roundhouse Road?
We did.
How did you get there?
We were escorted by the police. Our ambulance was unable to go up to the apartment
Why is that?
because there was a burning car blocking the access.
And when you were there, was the car still burning?
The car was still on fire.
And describe how the car was burning.
It was barely burning. There was much of the flammable materials had already burnt up, so it was just kind of still smoldering.
So how did you get to 11 Roundhouse Road?
We took our stretcher and backboard, which what we needed to extricate the patient from the house, and were escorted by 2 or 3 officers on either side of us with rifles, because at that point it was still considered to be an active shooter, and we had to go up, and were escorted up the hill.
Okay, I'm sorry, just to backtrack for a moment.
Yeah.
You didn't walk through the car, did you?
We had to go right around it.
Okay. And after you got beyond the car, what's the next thing that happened?
We were told that there were multiple devices and to stand clear. The Bourne police chief was escorting us up. He was basically leading us. He was pointing out where the devices were and to steer clear.
You saw him point things out to you. Yes?
Yes, yes,
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
yes.
What did you observe in terms of any devices, if you did make any observations?
We encountered one in front of the apartment. We had to walk very close to, it was right next to the walkway, and we had to walk past it to get into the house.
And did you hear anything at that point from that object or not?
I don't know if it was from that device. We did hear it. It sounded like a hissing, like a gong type of noise, which we believed was something else behind the cars.
So what's the next thing that happened?
We went into the house.
Who went into the house?
Actually, I'm sorry, we had firefighter, paramedic Matt Langler from the Bourne Fire Department, because we, in Falmouth, operated a paramedic in basic level. usually on anything that's considered to be a paramedic type call or advanced life support, it's preferred to have 2 paramedics. So he was on scene already, so he came up with us to be a second paramedic to assist me. So myself, paramedic Langler, and EMT Ferreira went up to the house. EMT Ferreira stayed with the stretcher. Myself and paramedic Langler took the backboard and went into the house.
Now, when you went into the house, what did you do? In other words, what way did you go?
I believe we went in through the front door, and we had to take an immediate right and go up a stairway. And
When you got to the top of the stairway, did you observe anything?
there were a lot of, I guess, shell casings.
And I'm talking about this, before you go into the room, do you observe anything in the hallway before you go into the room?
I believe there was a shotgun or some sort of firearm on the floor.
Did you then go into the room?
We did.
What observations did you make once you were in the room?
We were met by a state trooper who had his pistol out. We identified that we were coming up. He knew we were coming up, and he was directing pressure using a pillow to the wounded patient's chest.
So what did you then do, if anything?
We took a look at the wound, and then we basically secured the patient to the backboard. So the backboard is just a way that we can carry somebody who's injured out of a house.
And what observations of any wound or wounds did you make at that time?
We saw that both arms were injured, as well as there was a wound to the chest.
And whereabout on the body, when you say the chest, was it?
I believe it was the right chest, anterior chest wall.
And so you indicated that you put this individual onto a backboard?
Correct.
And what happened?
And then we had to strap her down, so obviously she wouldn't fall off it, and we had to carry her down a flight of stairs. So we carried her down to the back out of the apartment and into the out to the stretcher.
Okay. And what happened once she got to the stretcher?
We secured her to the stretcher and wheeled her back down the hill.
Where was the ambulance at that time?
The ambulance was back out on Clay Pond Road.
Okay. And did you wheel her all the way to the ambulance?
We did.
And then what happened?
Then a police officer, I'm not sure from which agency, was going to travel with us to the hospital. So
And do you know who that person was that was put on the backboard and brought out of the house down to the ambulance?
that was Anna Trubnikova.
And did you bring her to the hospital?
We did.
What hospital?
We went to Falmouth Hospital.
Thank you. That's all I have this one.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step aside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we approach one second?
Sure, come on over. Is there something further at the sidebar, counsel?
No.
All right, the jurors are out of the courtroom. Take the morning break. Thank you. It wouldn't be entered as an exhibit in any event, would it? It would simply be a chalk.
The transcript, correct.
Transcript, yes. Is there any objection to their using the transcript as a chalk?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Let's bring down the jury, please.
Jurors entering, all rise. Please be seated.
Attorney Glennie.
Anna Trubnikova, please.
Ma'am, raise your right hand, please.
Stand.
Ma'am, do you solemnly swear the testimony you should give to the court and the jury and the issues now pending between the Commonwealth and the defendant at the bar should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated, miss.
Now, ma'am, in a nice loud voice that I can hear you all the way over here, could you state your name? Could you spell your last name?
Anna. A-N-N-A. Trubnikova. Trubnikova.
Now, ma'am, do you know an Adrian Loya?
Yes,
Do you see him in court today? Where is he, please?
he's over there.
May the record reflect she's identified the defendant, Your Honor.
So noted.
Now, ma'am, drawing your attention back to 2015, were you married?
I was
To who?
Lisa
And do you know what Lisa's maiden name was?
Berlinga.
All right. In drawing your attention to February of 2015, where were you living?
The address,
Yes.
11 Roundhouse Road,
Do you know what town that was?
Bourne, Massachusetts.
All right. And were you and Lisa in any military service of the United States?
Yes, we were both active duty
In what?
in the Coast Guard.
In the Coast Guard. Where were you assigned at that time, in February of 2015?
Woods Hole,
Woods Hole. And where was Lisa stationed, if you know?
Base Cape Cod,
Do you know where that is?
the Otis base.
Okay, the Otis base? Okay. And could you tell us, earlier in the day on February 4th, do you remember where you had been or what you had done that day?
For that week, I was assigned to a military class that I attended from 8 to 4, and then I came home, and Lisa and I went at some point to a car dealership. She had totaled her car about a month prior, so she needed a new one. And then we went to the mall. Afterwards, we came home
All right. And do you know about, just in general figures, what time did you get home?
around 9-ish.
All right. And what did you do once you got home?
We went straight upstairs and kind of settling for the night. Watch TV, kind of laid in bed.
All right. Do you know what time you went to bed to sleep that night?
I don't know exact time, but within maybe an hour, hour and a half
Okay.
after we came home.
Did you both go to sleep at the same time, if you know?
As close as I can guess, yes, I think, turned off TV lights, and I remember she, like, cuddled up to me, and so at some point we fell asleep, I guess.
Okay. What's the next thing you remember?
There, I think, was some sort of noise to where she kind of stirred in bed, so I think that woke me up, and I, half asleep, kind of remember some noise. I don't know what it was. So that was like the first thing.
All right. So, did you hear a noise when you woke up?
I think so.
All right. What's the next thing that happened?
She, I think, said something to me, which I said, "It's nothing. I'm pretty sure I was half asleep, but I said it's nothing and that it might be the cats. And then I think I heard some other noise and a lot more pronounced, I guess. And then I just heard very heavy stomping, like someone was approaching up the stairs.
Okay, now you had mentioned some cats. Did you have cats in the apartment?
I did it. We had 2 cats.
All right. And were they roaming free?
Yes.
Did you have any other animals?
We had a puppy at that time who was in his crate in our bedroom.
All right. So you heard some heavy footsteps, you thought on the stairs. What's the next thing that happened?
A tall body stormed through the door, the entrance door to the bedroom, which was kind of at the end of our bedroom, and our bed was, so it was a little long. It was dark in the room, so the person was dressed in all dark, and we saw a light. I think I remember identifying like a flashlight because it was shining in our faces. And at some point where I could see that it's a rifle of some sort.
Okay, so you notice that this person comes into the room, correct?
Yes.
Could you tell at that point what, if anything, they had with them in terms of weapons?
I don't know if it was right that second because I think there was a lot of shock and confusion. He was yelling, that light in your face. So I don't think it was right away, but the more he was talking or like shouting commands, then I saw that he had another, maybe a rifle of some sort, on his left shoulder.
What was he yelling?
He was, at first, it was, like, separate. I think because Lisa right away starts saying, "Who are you?" or like, "What do you want?" type. He wouldn't say anything, so eventually I think her questions prompted him to yell out, "Shut up, separate."
So, do you remember when he said separate? Where were you in relationship to Lisa?
I was on the right side of the bed. She was on my left.
Were you close or far apart, at the edge of the bed, do you
Yes,
remember?
I think we kind of came together, I don't know, because we were so confused. And then he was kind of in the middle of the room.
What's the next thing that happened?
I think because we weren't responding the way we were told, he was agitated. I mean, I thought,
I object.
Not what you thought, but what you heard or what you saw, please.
So what happened next?
well, I wasn't as cooperative because it didn't seem right, that it was maybe a wrong house. Like, none of it made sense, so we didn't respond.
Oh, that can stand.
So when you said you weren't cooperative to what?
The commands to get off the bed and separate, I think in that situation, I didn't want to separate because it was very confusing. He just kept ordering, he came up to the edge of the bed and pulled the covers off of us. And at some point after that, he got my phone that was on my right on the nightstand and threw it away somewhere. I'm not sure where. And just continued doing that. I think at that point we were very panicked, and it seemed very like deliberate towards us that it was not a mistake.
What was the next thing that happened?
Just yelling, just kind of, he seemed to be agitated, and he said to get on separate ends of the bed on the floor, face down. Lisa kept objecting, and I think asking, what do you want? Like, who are you? He had a mask on and a lot of tactical gear, so we had still no idea who it was or why. And at that point, I believe he cocked a gun and kind of approached us, so I told Lisa to just do whatever he wants, and to get down on that side, and then I also followed. So we both at that point got on opposite sides of the bed.
What's the next thing that happened?
He threw handcuffs at us. He reached them from like the back of his gear. And he threw one to me first and threw to Lisa the other. And he directly spoke to her and said, in a very facetious way, you know what to do with them. Neither of us complied, and the last thing I wanted to be is restricted in that situation, so I refused to do it. He noticed that and was shouting and ordering more commands, saying, put them on. I put the handcuffs on my side on my right wrist, and I hid my left hand under some clothes or something, so that I could avoid not putting them on completely.
So you put them on one wrist, but not the other. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
What's the next thing that happened?
I don't think Lisa did it. I believe she just was very defiant. I actually, before the handcuffs, because Lisa kept asking, who are you and what do you want? He did take the mask off.
And did you recognize who it was at that point?
I did, because she yelled out his name in shock, and so it kind of just both came together for me as well, because I wasn't as familiar with him.
Who was it?
It was Adrian Loya.
Okay. What's the next thing that happened?
After the handcuffs?
Yes.
He was talking to her. Most of that time that he was in the room, he mostly spoke to her. He said, actually shortly after he took the mask off, he said, and she kind of shouted his name, and he's like, see what you've done to me. You kind of like, you're making me do this. Like, this is what I've become, type of, because of you. and she was asking, what did I do, or sorry. And he said it's too late. Just a lot of repetitive things over and over. I mean, she would mostly say, I'm sorry, or why are you doing this? I don't know if he ever specified why, except saying that she did this to him and something about Kodiak. And I just know that she said, like, I'm sorry, I was drunk. I didn't mean to hurt you. Somewhere in between that, I also kept saying, I'm sorry. I think I tried to appease him. He seemed angry, a little agitated, walking kind of back and forth in the room, looking to the window, back at the door.
Now, let me ask you a question, if I could stop there for a second. You said Kodiak. What
Yes.
significance did Kodiak have to you at that time?
We were all stationed in Kodiak, Alaska.
And you say all, who would that have been?
My wife, Lisa, me, and him.
Okay. And now, you indicated, you said he was looking out the window. Where in the room was the window?
So from the wall of the bed, it was to my left. It was 3 different windows
Together.
together.
Do you know what that, if you were to look out that window, what you would be looking towards or at?
A bit of a field, an open field behind some woods, and probably further that way, the road or the entrance of the road.
Okay. Then you mentioned he was pacing around the room. Go on from there, please.
He was angry at us for not complying and agitated, but seemed to be having,
I object.
Well, if you saw something about his demeanor and you can describe it, you can certainly tell the jurors what you saw. What you can't do is tell us what's going on in his head, unless he said something or by gesture or by mannerism gave you something that you can describe to the jurors.
what was your question?
Okay. We'll just step back a bit. You indicated that he was looking at the window. He began pacing around the room. Okay, what's the next thing that happened after that?
In between telling us what to do, he looked at the window, and at some point, he walked towards the door that he came from and kind of looked towards it, but didn't linger very long. I figured he heard something, and afterwards he became a little bit more time constricted. Kind of got back once again to getting us to do what he wanted.
Now, you're still where in the room?
We're on opposite ends of the bed.
All right. What's the next thing that happens?
He approached us after looking at the door and threw glow sticks that he activated by his mouth, with his mouth. So he threw one near me where I was halfway lying down, and one at Lisa's side where she was kind of the same.
So at that time, there were no, did he turn on the light in the bedroom?
No.
Okay, so there were no lights other than what?
The end of his gun and the glow sticks.
Okay, now the end of his gun, you say because why?
He had one of those mounted lights onto it.
Okay,
Where he was holding the light on top like police do when they search.
okay. So what's the next thing that happened?
It's hard for me to remember exactly what came after it. It seemed very fast.
Well, just tell us what you do remember, that's fine.
He continued to pace, talk to Lisa for the most part. I think actually when she refused to put the handcuffs, he approached her and there was some sort of physical contact. Either she tried to push him away or I don't know exactly what it was, but I remember he came very close to her. And I was very shocked that because she knew him well from before, he just said, like, this makes no sense. Why are you doing this? And so he backed up. I think more time kept going by, and he again looked and approached the door. He disappeared from my view for a split second. By instinct, I tried to.
Oh, go ahead. You can tell us what you did.
I started to pull the mattress towards me, over me, and Lisa saw that, and she pushed it towards me from her side and jumped over now the empty bed side of it. So some of it was still on the bed. And she crawled over to my side of the bed, so we are now on the right side of the bed.
Where was the mattress?
Once she sat next to me, it was halfway over us, halfway on the corner of the bed. So I think it was tilted at some point towards me. And then the other side was more raised over her. And he heard the ruffling, he reappeared and said, "What do you think you're doing?" Rushed towards us with the rifle. And kind of try to pull it off of us,
The mattress.
the mattress.
Go ahead.
But from what I remember, the mattress stayed covering the lower half of us, maybe a little less her than me because I was more into the corner that was tilted down.
And what's the next thing that happened?
He was standing over us pretty close. I heard one shot out of the rifle. I don't remember seeing it, but I remember hearing it. But that was it, and I thought maybe it's a warning shot. Can I actually backtrack to him approaching the mattress?
Then what happened?
When he approached the mattress and pulled it, or tried to pull it back off of us, I realized that Lisa had grabbed her phone from her side and was doing something with it to where when I looked at her, the screen of the phone was lit up and it was very bright.
And what's the next thing that took place?
I realized that he's now approaching us and we'll see that. And I knew that's just gonna make him angrier because he's probably gonna,
But just tell us what he did.
I knocked it out of her hand, being afraid that he's gonna,
I object.
No, she can have that. Explains her purpose.
Go ahead.
I knocked it out of her hand, fearing that that's only gonna make him angrier, since to that point we weren't shot yet. Maybe there was an opportunity to not do it.
What happened?
I knocked it out, and that's when that shot came out. He said, "What are you doing? What do you think you're doing?" And maybe seconds afterwards, there were more shots. I knew they weren't at me. I didn't feel it yet. The sound also went to my left. And at some point, there were more shots, and then I finally felt getting shot myself, mainly through my right arm going numb and curling up. I didn't know anything else. Afterwards, at some point, the shot ceased. I figured we only have seconds after that to live. I turned to Lisa. And I said, "I love you," to which she responded, "I love you too." And we were very close. She was facing me, kind of, and I just turned my head towards her, and I kissed her lips, and I remember the lips going numb, or not numb, limp, as if she got really weak. And right after that, I heard a lot of gushing blood, gurgling almost, and she started choking, like a wet cough, and exhaled, and it was a very deep exhale, and I, for myself, knew that she was dead at that point.
Where was Mr. Loya during that period of time, if you know?
After the shots were fired, I do not remember having a visual on him. I didn't know if he was next to us or left the house or left the room. I don't know.
All right. Did you see Lisa's phone at that time?
I did not.
What happened next?
I was laying there after I figured she died, waiting to die. I didn't feel a whole lot physically. I figured she died, so I'm next. A matter of seconds. But as soon as I realized I was thinking and processing the information, I knew that I at least wasn't shot in the head. And just more thoughts came up, as in if he's in the house still, if somewhere in between those thoughts, I heard in the back of my head somewhere, I was, I think, halfway in the closet, in a walk-in closet. I heard, I think, a man saying 911, what's your emergency? I realized that at some point she must have dialed 911. And perhaps the phone was on the whole time. I reached for it with my left hand. I couldn't move. I think that was the only moving part on me at that point. And I tried to speak to whoever it was. I think they were not very responsive. Either I was on hold, or there was a moment where I wasn't really speaking to them. And then somebody else started talking to me, or there was like a ringing. I was very confused. And so then again, they asked me, what's your emergency? And I said that my wife and I were shot, that she's dead, and then
Now, did you know at the time, right then, where you had been shot? And by that I mean where on your body you had been shot?
at the first words with 911, I only knew that there's something wrong with my right arm. Obviously to me, it was obvious that it was from the shots, but I did not know exactly what's wrong.
And when you're on the phone with 911, you had an opportunity to listen to a recording of that call, didn't you?
Say that again?
Yes, you've had an opportunity to listen to that 911 call between you and the 911 people, right?
Yes,
And that's a fair and accurate depiction of what took place, isn't it?
yes.
Now, I'd like to play that one.
Counsel's offering to play the call. Attorney Segadelli,
No objection.
he may do so.
I have prepared transcripts for my...
All right, jurors, we're going to hand out transcripts again, because sometimes these telephone calls are very difficult to decipher the particular words. Like the video, the transcript is only a chalk. That means it's an aid for you to be able to understand and appreciate the exhibit. The recording of the call itself is the exhibit. If anything is said to your ear when playing the call, when playing the disc, that is different than the transcript, it is the disc that controls, not the transcript. Mr. Clerk, do you have a copy of it already? All right.
Yes, actually.
Item for identification as a chalk, please. Thank you.
Remember,
I might have it, Mr. Clerk, after you mark it. Thank you. When you're ready, counsel.
911 is where Roundhouse, what's going on there?
There's a shooter. My wife and I are both shot.
You're both shot?
Yeah.
Alright, stay on the line, do not hang up, report, do not hang up. Two suspects shot. 411 Roundhouse Road. Do you know who shot you?
Yes.
911, Appliance Quarter, where's your mercy? Orange State, 11
His
Roundhouse.
last name,
Yeah,
his last name is Loya.
yeah, what's the problem?
She shot both of us, me and my wife. His
What?
last name is Loya.
Where at?
11 Roundhouse.
11 Roundhouse? You've been shot?
Both of us were gonna die.
11 Roundhouse, what's your last name?
Trubnikova.
Where's he at?
She left.
He left where?
I don't know.
11 Roundhouse. What did he look like?
She's about,
22 or 3, so you can take away 11 Roundhouse.
oh God.
You're on the line because you've been shot. Ma'am?
Yeah.
What's your name again?
Trubnikova.
Tuna? Spell it. Can you spell it for me? You and who else has been shot?
My wife.
Your wife? Ma'am,
Yes.
can you talk to me? Give FDA 10 center for the rescue. Ma'am, can you talk to me?
Yes.
Who's the person who shot you?
Loya.
Lawyer?
His last name is Loya.
What's his first name? Do you know what his first name is, ma'am? Do you know where he's at now?
No.
No? Is he related to you?
No, he's from the Coast Guard.
He's in the Coast Guard?
Yes.
And what's your name again, ma'am? Spell your last name.
Trubnikova.
Spell your last name for her. Spell your last name for me, ma'am. Ma'am. Okay. Hello, ma'am, you still there?
Yes.
Who else is in the house with you? Where have you been shot, ma'am? Ma'am, where have you been shot? Ma'am. Line 514, start heading that way. Ma'am. Okay, copy. Hey, we got a report of a gunshot victim, 2 of them at 11 Roundhouse. Female on the phone. Is, passing out. Unknown on the male, last name is Lawyer. Ma'am, can you hear me? What's your copy? Anything on the cover? Negative. Just a name, unknown. Negative at this time. Ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am? Ma'am. Ma'am, who else is in the house with me, ma'am? Ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me? Ma'am. Who else is in the house? Ma'am, can you hear me? Who else is in the house with you? No one, just you? And Lawyer, the one who shot you, where's he at? You don't know? What does he look like?
All in black.
What's that?
All in black.
He's dressed all in black?
And why are you taking so long?
We're on our way there, ma'am. We're right down the street. There's a car fire that we we gotta move the car out of the way to get to you. Was he dressed all in black?
Yes, I don't hear anybody.
We're right down the street, ma'am. Well, I need to know what the guy looks like that shot you.
All black, I think.
He's dressed all in black, is he a white male?
Right now, wearing khakis.
Wearing khakis? And he's dressed with... And all...
Somebody up here.
We are. You said two people were shot. Is it you and somebody else?
No. Please, come on.
Okay, so a white male, all in black. And his last name's Loya?
Loya, L-O.
L-O...
Please hurry up.
L-O-Y-A? We are, ma'am, we're right down the street. We gotta make sure, is he in the house?
I'm having a hard time breathing now. Please.
Ma'am,
Seriously.
what's his first name? Hello, ma'am.
Please hurry up.
We're right down the street, ma'am. We're on the road right now.
Seriously.
One police. Roundhouse Road. Just right in the middle of the road. Can't mess it. I'm on 911 right now.
It's the first one.
What's that? We have a fire department coming and the police are coming. We're right down the road, okay? So he's a white male dressed in black.
I'm completely paralyzed.
Where did he shoot
I'm
you
hard
at?
and breathing.
Where did he shoot you at?
Oh my God.
Units on the scene have possible suspect, a white male dressed in black with khakis. Ma'am, do you know where you've been shot at? Hello, ma'am?
Dad,
Right.
please hurry up.
Yeah, I can't look it up now. I'm still on 911. Ma'am,
Dad,
where have you been shot at?
I'm not here yet.
No? And you're the only one in the house. Do you know if the male party drives a vehicle? Hello, ma'am?
Yeah.
What kind of vehicle, do you know? Hello, ma'am? What's the lawyer's first name? Yeah, what's the lawyer's first name? Do you know it? Hello, ma'am?
Yeah.
What's the lawyer's first name? Hello?
Yes.
What's his first name? Do you know his first name? Do you know the male's first name?
Where are you?
We're right down the street. We're coming up. We're right on the road right now. I need to know the male's last name. What's the male's last first name? Ma'am, what's the male's first name? Can you tell me where you've been shot at?
Please hurry up.
We are right down, we're on that street right now. We're trying to get by. There's a car fire that's blocking the road.
Are you lying?
I'm not lying. I have 4 units out there, fire departments there. We're trying to get by. We need to give you some information on the male that shot you.
No. No, I need it.
What's that?
Please.
And what's your last name? What's your last name? Can you spell it for me? And your first name, ma'am? Anna? Okay. Anna, we're right there. We're gonna be right there. But do you know the male's first name? And do you know what?
Can you please hurry? Can you?
We are, ma'am. We're right there.
Where are you going?
Bye. Vehicle fire or electric roundhouse? Ma'am,
Yes.
what's the male's first name?
Sorry, I'm done.
What's that? Do you know where you've been shot at? Anna,
What do you want?
Anna. Where are you at in the house?
Yes.
Do you know where you're at in the house?
Upstairs.
Upstairs? Upstairs bedroom? Okay. Bye. Yeah, I'm kind of tied up right now. I'm calling 911. Victim is upstairs in the upstairs bedroom. When you get there. Anna. Anna. The male that shot you, he's not in the house, is he? You don't know? Are you locked in your bedroom? You can't move? But it's in the upstairs bedroom. Correct? Anna. 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 Can you hear me? Anna. 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 Talk to me, Anna. Anna, can you talk to me? Anna, can you talk to me? Talk to me, Anna. Hello? Anna, can you talk to me? Anna, can you talk to me? What's going on? Anna. One, please. Anna. Anna, can you talk to me? Anna. Anna. What are we still on to? Anna? Anna? Is he still in the house?
I don't know.
You don't know? All right, tell me about him. What does he look like?
Stop making me come.
Okay, just answer yes or no with me, okay? Is your wife male?
Yes.
Last name Loya?
Yes.
Do you know his first name? What? You don't remember? Is he from the area? Where's he from? He's from where? Okay. He's from Virginia? What? I'm sorry. Do that one more time. Yeah, we're coming as fast as we can get there. It's gone. Alright, and listen to me, do not hang up your phone. I'm connecting back to Bourne so you can speak with Bourne again, okay? I know you're there. We're getting help to you as fast as we can. Alright, stay on the line. Bourne State, Anna. Hey, Anna, step on the line. Anna. What's going on? Who's the male? You need to tell me who the male is at. Who he is? Do you know who he is? Anna, do you know if the house is all locked up? Anna, do you know if the house is all locked up? No. Anna. Anna. Please. We're coming. All right? Yes, we are. Please. Anna. Who's the male that shot you? Listen, who's the male who shot you? We need to know. Just in case we come across him, we can hold on to him. What's his name? What is it? Anna. Anna. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Anna, can you hear me?
All right. Step up with the court officer, please. Jurors, take a recess.
All rise, jurors, please. Jurors, step right up, please.
Counsel, right down here with Mr. Horgan, please.
You may be seated.
Recess.
All rise.
Court, all rise. Please be seated. Court is back in session.
I discussed with counsel in the lobby the need to have the witness sit through the balance of the 911 tape, and it's agreed that she may be excused while the tape continues. Is that correct, Attorney Glenny?
Yes, Your Honor.
Attorney Segadelli?
Yes, Your Honor.
Bring down the jurors, please.
Jurors entering, all rise. Please be seated.
Mr. Barrows, please.
Anna, who's the male? Do you know who the male is? Anna, do you know who the male is? Anna, do you know who the male is at Charleston? Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Anna? Well, Steve was still on. Yeah, so. Anna. What? Can you tell me anything about the male that shot you? Anna. Anna, can you give me some information on the male? You know who he is? I got that. He was in black and khakis. I have that. How about his name? Anna, do you have his name? Anna. I can't understand you. What'd you say? Anna. Anna, what'd you say? What? Say it again. Anna. Anna. Talk to me, Anna. Anna. Jerry, this is right for the back of the house. Up to my right. One, please. Hey, what's up? Jerry, tell me your story for the one back of the house. All I have is a white male dressed in black with khakis on the phone with the victim right now. I'm like, get too much information. Yeah, the same. I don't know. It doesn't sound like he Okay. Ready. Hang on. It sounds like they understood that somebody just ran the back side of the house. Anna. Did someone just come out of your house? No. Anna, nobody's in the house with you. You're by yourself, right? Yes. Okay, and you're upstairs in the upstairs bedroom? Yes. And the male that shot you is, what's his name? What is it? Anna, say it one more time, a little louder for me, please. What's that? There's a light on in your house? Was the light on before, or it just come on? What's that? I can't hear you, Anna. It was on before? Okay, so it's not changed from when you first called me, right? Okay. Can you tell me the male's name? What is it? I'm at the police station. I have officers out around your house right now. But I need to know who the male is. They're making their way to you. All right. Can you tell me the male's name? You just had somebody run towards your location from the back of this building. Be advised, from here towards you. Okay, what's up, check? Units on scene, be advised, state, county canine should be en route any minute. Listen. 5-0. Josh, I need you to go straight up the driveway if you go the way you were going. Yeah. What's the male's name? Ma'am, what's the male's name? Anna. You know what the male's name is? Lawyer? What is it? Spell it one more time, ma'am. L-O-Y-A. You said L-O-Y-A? And how about his first name? What's that? What's his first name? Anna, what is it? And all you know is the last name is L-O-Y-A. What's that? He was in what? He was in the Coast Guard with you? And all you don't know is and you don't know his first. What's that? We are. How about the house? You're just the only one in the house, right? You don't know? Okay. And you know what he was driving, the type of car? And you don't know his first name? You don't remember? And how do you know him? From the Coast Guard? You know him from the Coast Guard? Are you in the Coast Guard? You are? Okay. And where, in the Coast Guard, where are you stationed at? The base, Otis? Woods Hall? Okay. And are you the only one that lives at your house? What's that? What, somebody else lives? Somebody else lives there with you? My wife. You're right. Is there anybody else that lives with you? My wife. Your wife? And what's your wife's name? Lisa. Lisa? And her last name? Trubnikova. Can you spell that for me? The same way. What's that? Can you hear me? What's your wife's last name?
I hear shots. I hear gunshots.
That might be there's a... Okay. Born Trubnikova. Trubnikova.
Shots are fired.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am. Okay, where you at right now? State, can you say the last name again for me? Trubnikova. Your name, Lisa Trubnikova. Can you spell it? Trubnikova. I'm sorry. We have gunfire going on right now. Yeah, I hear it. Anna, you still there?
Yes, please.
Okay, hang on. Hang on. Hey, it's Ford. You got that? We got shots fired. Roundhouse Road. It's a, one of our guys got hit. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thanks. No, they sound like they're chasing through the woods or something. Oh, that's all I have. That's it. Hang on. Jared got shot. Yeah. I don't know if you want to call somebody else in or what. I'm on the line with the victim. I ain't getting much. He doesn't know. The boy will watch the air wing. Okay. 11 roundhouse, correct. Anna. Yeah. The male who shot you, what's his name? I know. We're trying to get you. I hear you. We're trying to get to you. Yeah. Hold on, okay? Anna. One run. Anna. Give me his first name. You don't know his first name and you served together? Alright, say that again. Anna, you still there? Anna? Yep. We're getting help. You just stay where you are. You said you served with him in the Coast Guard?
My wife.
Your wife served with him in the Coast Guard? Nope. She didn't invite him. And she invited him to the house? Yeah.
No, he broke in.
He broke in. Oh. Did you get some more information? She doesn't know who it is. It was broken. He knows his wife. He knows her wife. Okay. Okay, and we don't know where the wife's at, right? Anna, where's the wife at, do you know? Where is she? Where is she, ma'am? She's what?
On the floor.
She's on the floor? Where on the floor in the house?
Next to me.
lying next to you? Okay. Anna. So the male knew, Anna. So the male knew Lisa. You didn't know him, you just met him. You just met him?
I didn't know them that well.
Okay. How many times have you met him? What's that? Anna. We're making our way there.
No, you're not. I'm gonna put it out there.
Hang on, Anna. Hi.
My bus comes up the left side, all lines with traffic, in between the two buildings.
Yeah. We're gonna be there. We're gonna be there soon. Okay? Yeah, well, we can be there soon. We're in the area right now.
Received, we're gonna be right next to a row of three cars in the parking lot, keep your head down, we're right on a white wicket. Somebody's watching this.
Where, do you know where you've been shot, Anna?
No, I don't know yet.
You don't know? But you're upstairs, you're both upstairs in your bedroom? What's that? You're doing, what are you doing here?
I'm running.
Yeah.
What?
Keep talking to me. All right, keep talking to me, Anna. And how long have you been in the Coast Guard? One week. All right, how you doing? Probably right up where the fire is at, until I hear from everybody else there. Yeah, right up the big one. All right. Okay. One, please. Who is it? Oh, yeah. Hey, what's up? Okay. Anna, you still there? Just the white male all dressed in black hoodie. Yeah, that's all I have. All right. Anna, where's Lisa? She's right next to you? Where is she shot? She's dead? Anna. Do you know where you've been shot at?
No. Can you come back? He might come back for me, please.
He's not gonna come back to it. We have plenty of officers in the area. They're looking for him right now.
No, he might come back for me.
He won't come back for you. Yes, Anna, I do. There's a lot of police officers out in the area right now.
No, I don't hear anybody.
They're out there.
No, they're not.
Anna, yeah, they're out there. Were you guys at home when the mail came in? Sleeping, or did he come home with you?
Sleeping.
You were sleeping and he came in? male say anything to you before he shot you? Yeah. Yeah. Did the male say anything to you before he shot you? Do you know? Can you tell me anything? What's that? You're not. We're making our way to you.
I don't hear anybody.
They're out there. Trust me, they're all around you right now. Okay? But when the male came in the house, did he say anything to you? What did he say? We're making our way there. Okay? That's the police. That's us. We're all around your house. You hear noise in the house? Well, there's a lot of police around the area. What's that? He's not going to come back for you. We're in the area. Did you know if the male said anything to you? What did he say? It's okay. You're okay. And is he from the West Indies?
I hear you.
And is he from the West Indies?
What is that?
Where did he live before? Let me, I'll give you a call back. Let me get my chief's out there right now. All right? Okay, I'll ask him. Anna, hold on. Anna, where was he from? Do you know?
West Indies.
Was he from the West Indies?
What does that mean?
I couldn't hear you.
What does that mean?
Where is he from? Do you know where he came from?
I don't know.
But he knew your wife? Andy, you still there?
Yes.
I'm still here, Anna. I know you're scared. They're coming to you.
Jurors, take your lunch break. Please be in the jury room ready to go at 2 o'clock. Go right down, put you to work. Thank you.
All rise for the jurors. Jurors, let's go.
The jurors are out of the room. Anything further at this time, counsel?
Not from the defendant.
2 o'clock, please.